Everyone, I'm gonna let some people come in, give everyone a few. We are back, and if you don't know who I am, I'm Meagan, the founder of Women Rock Wings, and this is episode 2 of Clear for the Story Live. I am so excited to be back, so we're gonna just give people a few minutes to join, or a few moments, I should say. And if you don't mind, hey, Sharasa, let me see, Sharasi. I'm trying to make sure I pronounce it right. Hi, Amanda. Hi, everyone. Just comment where you're from. I am currently in New York, so that's where we are going live from today. Most people who do know me know I am a Brooklyn girl through and through and proud of it. So we're just going to give people a few moments to join once again. If you're on, India. Wow. Well, hi. You are definitely on a different continent. I love it. Oh, we got another New Yorker here. So we have India, we have New York in the building. Oh, that makes me so excited to see where everyone is from. I'm really, really thrilled, and just thank you for taking some time with us today. And we're going to give about a few more seconds, and then we're going to hop right in it. I hope you're having a great Wednesday so far. I can't believe it's July already. And if you're in New York or in the East Coast, Northeast specifically, we have our first sunny day after a couple of days of some serious rain. So we're happy for some sun. So we're going to get started. I'm Meagan, the founder and CEO of Women Rock Wings. And if you joined us for episode 1 and you're back for episode 2, thank you. Welcome back. And if this is your first time joining us, thank you and welcome. So I am so grateful to be here because this series was started not to be polished, not to be perfect, but really to hop into women's stories, to tell the in-between, the part that doesn't make your resume, right? Like, so a lot of us have LinkedIn profiles, or our Instagrams are professional, but of course we're not putting what happened in the midst of each accomplishment. We're listing the accomplishment. So Clear for the Story Live was created so we can dig through the in-between, hi Mia, and really see what these journeys mean. So we launched we launched the series a couple of weeks ago, and we had a really, really great response, which I'm super glad for, because that really let us know that this is the right time to do this. And our first episode was about the story having value. So we're going to dig a little deeper today than the value of the story. And today we're going to talk about what it means to actually own your story and put it into action. And when I say own your story, I don't mean just knowing your story, right? And being willing to tell your story when someone asks, hi, but also claiming it, putting it into action, because knowing your story and putting it into action are two very different things. And before we get a little deeper, just some in-house, if you haven't read our current issue, of Women Rock Wings digital magazine, it's out right now. It's the legacy issue. We'll have a new issue coming out really, really soon in a few weeks, which I'm very thrilled. Can't wait to announce the cover. But if you would love to check out some more stories in written form, you can hit the link in our bio and check out the legacy issue. Right now, Captain Beth Powell is our cover. So getting back to what we're talking about for this episode, the value of your story was episode 1, and this one is owning your story and putting it into action and what that looks like, right? So knowing your story is something we all are very capable of. We can recite our story. We know what happened. We know the facts. Sometimes we know what we were wearing that triggered any series of events. And we can recite it. We can tell it. We can say what it made us feel, where we were, who we were with, where we were alone, right? But owning your story is something completely different, right? And this means that I would say owning your story would mean you're at peace with your story, because there are pieces of our story that aren't that great. And a lot of the times, those are the things that we didn't tell other people, right? The seasons where we feel like we failed, or pivots that necessarily weren't planned, or the parts that didn't go the way you thought that they should, right? A lot of times those are the pieces that we leave out, right? You stepped away, you had to take time off, you had to put your dream on hold a little bit. Sometimes you almost gave up, right? Owning your story is telling your story without apologizing for the parts that you're not so proud of, right? Sometime at that point when you first start, right? Telling it, right? So you stop leaving those parts out. You're open about telling them when necessary, right? You stop waiting for someone to give you permission to take up space with the full truth of who you are, what you've been through, the experiences you've gone through, right? In order to be where you are. So what I've learned, the parts of our story that we're more inclined to hide are generally the parts that change not only us the most, but can change other people the most. Oh my gosh, High Flying with T. I'm so glad you're on here. It's so good to see you. And I'm so glad you and your team are doing well. And so back to owning our story and not being really nervous about telling the portions that we're not the proudest of, but literally most likely have changed our lives and will absolutely change the life of others. So there are a few reasons, right? So why don't we own our stories sometimes? Sometimes we don't own them. I found a few reasons. There could be quite a bit, right? But I'm going to just go over the top 3 reasons that I've personally gone through. So I try my best to talk about things that I too have gone through so that people know and feel comfortable and don't feel alone, like they're the only ones who've done this, because a lot of times when we find out that someone else has experienced what we've experienced, it makes us even more comfortable to share, right? The things that we've experienced. So I'm going to talk about the top one, the one I feel most people experience when not fully being able to own their story, which is shame, right? Nobody likes to talk about shame. It's exceptionally uncomfortable. Oh my gosh, hi Aviation Girl, congratulations again on winning part of the raffle with Fly MacArthur and Women Rock Wings for the 4-Leaf Air Show that just passed this weekend. It's so good to see you on. And so let's get back to something that's so fun, a little tough to talk through, right? But we're going to fly through it and get to some better weather. So a lot of times we don't own our story because of shame, right? Sometime when we think of shame, you're super welcome. We reflect on it and it makes us feel like something's wrong with us, right? We're not that happy about a decision we made. Like for instance, if we made a better decision, maybe if we were smarter in the moment, certain chapters wouldn't exist. And let's be real. And we edit those things out, but we have all made decisions that necessarily weren't the best, or they were the best decision with what we were given at the time. And sometimes, right, we don't tell that part of the story because if we feel it makes us more presentable, right? And I'm not saying tell everybody your business. I am not that kind of person. I'm saying that when we have certain experiences, I feel that the best mentors, and all of us can be mentors in a sense, are transparent, right? When necessary, with whom it's necessary with. And it's just more so being proud of who you are and all the things that you've gone through in your story, because it's made you who you are. It's led you to where you are today. So yes, sometimes we did not make the best decision, but you know what? You learned from that decision. And this decision helped you get from point A through B, C, D, E, F, and on down the line, right? And so the second one, so we have number 1 for reasons why people don't necessarily own their story. It could be shame. Number 2, something I think a lot of people go through, comparison. This can be a tough one for a lot of people because you see someone accomplish and say the same exact goal that you've been through. Like, for example, I can personally speak of starting flight training and having to start and stop and start and stop, and people that I've supported along the way, people that I've encouraged, people that I've connected to others, they're done. Not only are they done with the first rating, but they're on to other ratings, they're on to the airline, they're on to a general aviation career, or they're just, flying for fun. But they have their ratings, right? If I sat down and just said, well, look at them, the thing about comparison that I've always been taught since I was younger, actually from my grandmother, is that comparison is the thief of joy. And we say that in a sense of we can assess what's going on around us. And if we have to have a real conversation with ourselves and say, hey, I need to lock in, I need to do better. And you see someone else that does have a good regimen and, a good schedule that you could adopt for yourself, that's cool. But comparison in a sense of beating yourself down for where we are, right? When we look at someone else's story and see their milestones and see the achievements and certs and ratings, and we feel that we don't measure up and that somehow our journey is less, that's when it becomes detrimental to not just your journey, but your inner peace. And who wants their inner peace interrupted? No one, right? So we don't need to harp on that. I think we've all been, bit by the comparison bug before a little bit, whether it's a lot or a little bit. But it's okay to say, yeah, I did that. Hone it back in, reflect. The pieces of someone else's story that are helpful, or their schedules, their regimens, the things that have made them better, absolutely, you can use as tools to get you to your next goal. But don't use it to beat yourself down. And then the third one I think is a little more subtle. Sometimes we don't think what we have to say actually has value, right? That sounds crazy, but it does happen. Sometimes we can feel like, things have to be perfect or resolved before we start actually sharing. But sometimes you are in the middle of your journey to reaching a certain goal, and it's okay to say, hey, I haven't figured that out yet, but here's what I've learned so far, right? And everything being resolved is not really how story works. It's not how community works, right? The story that very well might change someone else's life or yours is the thing that you might be living and in the middle of right now. And a lot of times, right, it's hard to talk about things when you're in the middle. So let's get into why, or not really why, but what it looks like to put your story into action. Because ownership without, I would say ownership without action is just self-awareness. That's the best way I could put it. It's great to be self-aware, but what are you doing with the things you're aware about? Right? So it doesn't change anything just to be aware. It changes, oh, hey, Victoria, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you on. So self-awareness without action doesn't change anything for you or anyone else. And putting your story into action, and Victoria is a great person and a great example of putting your story into action. For example, when she and her partner did the Air Race Classic last year, we got an opportunity, all of us, right, on Instagram, to see some of her stories, some of her background, about her heritage and her family and what that meant for her to fly. So I think that's like putting your story into action, right? And another way that you can do that, right, is maybe with a mentor, maybe with a CFI, maybe you've been too scared to apply to a program, too scared to ask a question, submitting an application that you've been stalling on, starting a class, making a call. It may be sharing a part of your story with someone who really, really, really needs it, but you've been nervous to do it because you don't want to necessarily be vulnerable, right? Because owning our story actually also takes a level of vulnerability we may not have been wanting to deal with, right? And so it might also look like you showing up in a space you may not have felt like you belong in. Trust me, you do. And so whatever that action may be for you to start owning your story, take it. Reflect on your story, right? Own the story first and then let it move you to whatever that action may be. It may not be any of the examples I just provided, but you know, trust me, intrinsically what that next step is for you. And before we continue a little more, just wanted to point out our newsletter is definitely coming out weekly or bi-weekly with some more updates. And if you haven't joined the community of Women Rock Wings, the link is in the bio. You can do so. It also comes with a complimentary access to the digital magazine. So I'm really excited about that. So I would like for you, if you want to put them in the comments, you can. If you're not comfortable, that is quite all right. Drop in the comments. Let me see. How do I get the newsletter? If you go to the link in our bio, you can sign up to join the community, and that will give you access to the newsletter, deliver right to your inbox, and it will also give you immediate access to the digital magazine. Hopefully that answers your question. So back to our little homework for this episode. So whether you're comfortable, you can put in the comments or you can just reflect on it. No problem. I would love to hear what part of your aviation story have you been kind of reluctant to own. And so if you don't say it, it's fine here, but reflect on it, right? This is why this community exists. This is why we're here for one another, so we can grow and we can share these amazing stories and change each other's lives and also support each other, because that's what community is for. So hopefully you've had a second to reflect on a part of your story that you haven't felt that comfortable owning yet, but now you can take some steps forward to do that. And so don't worry, we won't belabor the time. I would like to also say, normally Clip of the Story is every 2 weeks, but next week we will have a special guest live. I'm super excited. We're going to be catching up with someone right before Oshkosh and seeing what their journey is like, and they'll be walking around Oshkosh as well, so you'll get to meet them too. And so that will be next week, July 15th. I won't say who it is, but you'll find out soon. So we're going to start coming in for our landing. We're going to hit this pattern. Oh, wow, we have somebody. Okay, so before we do that, I'm going to say talking to pilots and taking the first step itself. India has a lot of restrictions. License is expensive. Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, so before we hit the pattern, we're going to extend our down. Well, actually, we're in the pattern, but we're going to extend our downwind a little bit. I would say the good news is that India has one of the highest percentages of women in aviation, which is absolutely amazing. I would say too, there are possibly some WAI chapters in different parts of India. I cannot say which part. I don't know specifically. However, I would highly suggest you go to womeninaviation.org. I think that's their website, or Google Women in Aviation and check out India chapters. I do know some people who like Jabali Kandula, who actually was one of our cover stories that have volunteered in India with WAI. So I would absolutely check that out, along with the 99s. I'm not sure. Oh, see, I said the 99s, and Victoria said the same thing. Thank you, Victoria. So 100%. So she confirmed that the 99s also have a chapter in India. So I would go to the 99s as well, their website, and Google the 99s, like spell it out. Oh, wonderful. Please, let me see who, VYOM.GEET. I don't necessarily know how to say your name, and I don't want to say it incorrectly. So please check out Fly with V Now. It's spelled FLYWITH. V as in Victor, NOW. On Instagram, if you DM her, she says she's happy to connect you with a wonderful Indian female pilot, and that may be able to help you on your journey. This is the best part of the show. This is the best part of the conversation right here. This is community live in action, and this is what being open and owning your story in the right spaces can really do. It can lead you to your next step. And thank you, Victoria. Victoria is so amazing. So if you DM her, she absolutely will connect you to the other pilot. Thank you so much, Victoria, for offering that. So we are going to now short her downwind. We're going to hit base and bring it in for our final approach. And so let me see. So I never ask questions that I wouldn't be comfortable asking. So here we are. Let me see. What part of your own story have you had the hardest time owning? So I would say that one of the hardest, and I wrote mine down because I didn't want to forget some key points that I've had a hard time owning, was definitely the quiet moments of building Women Rock Wings. And because it was so invisible, the work behind the scenes, right? And just feeling like not being sure which way we were going, how we were getting there. So it takes a lot to believe in something that doesn't necessarily exist yet and keep going. So that would be some of the hardest parts in owning that. I felt like that for quite some time. I don't feel like that now, but I did, I would say about 2 years ago. So what does putting your story into action look like right now? Honestly, it looks like Clear for the Story Live and being able to share my story in different stages, because I'm asking these questions of our community. So I feel it's only right that I answer these questions and I share the things that I've learned along the way. So that's what it looks like for me to put my story into action. Ooh, no. Okay, I have to pause on this question. Do you think it is a bit late for me to get into aviation? I would say so. 32, currently at my CPL level. Oh my goodness, it's absolutely not too late. First and foremost, I started flying at 33. Did not finish my PPL. Still on that journey. But no, it's absolutely not too late. I would definitely say, I don't know where you are, but definitely finding communities like this one and other ones that are in your area where you can meet women who are stepping along this journey as well. So like I said earlier, there's so many orgs that are international. Elevate Her Aviation is absolutely one of those. They have a great WhatsApp community. They have a great newsletter. They are more toward Europe. But they are global and they're super great. A lot of their community aspects are free. I know their membership is free. So that would be a great community I would get connected with. I also mentioned WAI, the 99s. There's a slew of them. I think that we're gonna do different shows with different people from different organizations that can support just people in their journey, and I think that would be a great one. But just those couple would be great. Oh, International Women Pilots is another great organization to just see where you can tap in at. So those are just a few, but you are definitely not late at all in any capacity or shape or form. So, hey Mimi, hey Pretty K. And so what do you want women to walk away feeling after hearing your story? Ooh, this is a good one. I would say, especially for me, you got disconnected. I was saying that please tap in with Fly with V Now on Instagram. Fly with V Now. So FLYWITH. V is in Victor. NOW on Instagram. She said she would connect you with an amazing Indian female pilot through the 99s that she knows. So please tap in with her via DM on Instagram. So what would I want women to know walking away from my story? Because we only have a few minutes left. I would say that the messy middle is valid. Because the messy middle is where it gets really hard. It's like, where am I going? How am I getting there? Why did I start this journey? There's so many questions you're asking yourself, right? You're like, why did I do this to myself? I could have done something else, because sometimes we get in the middle of a goal and it is not as clear. Like for instance, for those, hi Princess, for those who don't know this part of my journey, I'm also in the Air Force. And when I started in the Air Force some years ago, I went through basic training and I took longer to get out of basic training than I was supposed to due to an injury. And in that messy middle, I definitely asked myself quite a bit of times, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm away from home. Why did I do this to myself? What was I thinking? But in the midst of that middle, I learned so much about myself. I made some friends that I still have all these years later. I've had a long career. I built so much endurance that I thought I never could build. I built more confidence in myself and in my decisions. So I would definitely want women walking away after hearing my story feeling like the messy middle is absolutely valid. And it says, what advice would you give to a woman who knows her story but isn't ready to own it yet? So I would say start smaller than you need to. Sometimes we think we need to have everything figured out. And I'm not saying don't have a plan, right? But you need waypoints. And that's kind of how like flight plans work, right? It's like many little flights. That's what waypoints are. You have one long flight, but there are in-betweens to get you to the end. And so I would say start small, right? Start at that 10 to 15 nautical mile mark. And just as you do it more, you'll get better, you'll be more confident, and you'll meet people along the way that actually push you further along, and you'll push them further along too. So I would just say start smaller than you need to. And last but not least, because we know we love a checklist, go to travel or work snack. I'm a sweet salty kind of person, so I like things like yogurt covered pretzels or milk chocolate covered pretzels, but I'm trying to be good, so I do dark chocolate with like almonds. So yes, that would be kind of my vibe. Okay, most memorable aviation moments so far. Oh my gosh, this is hard because there've been quite a bit. So I'm geeked when I meet women who've paved the way. So that's always my jam. So when I met Olga Custodio, so she was the first Latina pilot in the Air Force. Oh my God, hey, so Aurora, and my fellow aviation sister. I totally geeked out in line. I met her at a WAI conference. I also geeked when I met Captain Teresa Claymore. And so anytime I meet like a living female aviation legend, I totally geek out. Oh my gosh, and one of my faves, Monica Noonan-McClooney. I love her, and she knows I do. So a book that has shaped how I think about my career. Ooh, this is a good one. Start with yourself. I am in the middle of reading, really listening because it's on audio right now. Start with Yourself by Emma Grede. I think that it's just very transparent, very real. It doesn't coddle you. And it's really started me on the journey of reshaping how I'm handling my career. And so in my everyday life, just to reach the goals and just the organization that I would like in my overall life to include my career. So I would say Start With Yourself by Emma Grede. Yes, Aurora, come on. And then most valuable relationship in my career, mentor, peer. So obviously one of the most valuable relationships in my career has been my mentor who pushed me and supported me in flying. But I would say valuable would honestly be all the women that I meet in aviation, because everybody I've met, I've learned something from. Whether I've met them virtually, whether I've met them in person, I've learned something from them. So with that being said, we have gotten somebody hopefully connected to a pilot in India, supported someone and letting them know that they are not too late. It's starting out and right now at their CPL level at 32. You are amazing. You have a lot more time to do what you want with your aviation journey. And please join us next week, and we will have a special guest. Like I said, normally it's every 2 weeks, but next week we'll be checking in with someone before Osh. And we started episode 1 was talking about your stories having value. This episode we dug into what it looks like to actually own your story and put it, and putting it into action. And like I said, next episode, we are finally bringing in another voice to the conversation. So more women, more stories, and more of what Cleared for the Story Live is made of. So make sure you're following along. Don't miss it. And if today's conversation moved you at all, please share it. Tag someone who needs it. We will be posting some clips shortly after. And then the actual episode will be on Instagram and YouTube. Well, actually YouTube, sorry. Only the clips will be on Instagram, but the actual episode will be on YouTube tomorrow. Once again, thank you so much for spending 30 minutes with me on Clear for the Story Live. And until next time, the skies are open and keep telling your story. Have a good day. Bye.